Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. As the first speaker after Leslie Brennan being sworn in, I would certainly want to welcome Leslie to the chamber today. I was thinking this morning that up until now, I think I was the newest member in this chamber, and now it's Leslie, so congratulations. Presiding Officer, in the weeks and months ahead in the lead up to the Scottish General Election in May, I hope we can, in Scotland, have a big debate about the most pressing challenges and issues that we face and Scotland faces moving forward. Today I have tabled a motion that speaks about the social and economic success for all of Scotland. My desire, my ambition throughout my life has been to live in a society where we no longer have the haves and the have-nots, but instead a society where everyone, no matter what family they are born into or what circumstances they are born into, they have an equal chance to achieve their full potential. A society where, if you are unable to work and provide for yourself, there is a social security system to support you with a minimum income. And a society where, if you are able to work, you will work and you will earn a fair pay and be treated with dignity and with respect in the workplace. Now, I actually don't think that is an awful lot to ask for. Yet in Scotland in 2016, we are far removed from that kind of society. And despite what the Tories say in here today, it is actually getting worse. And that's why we need a more open and honest debate about the state we are in. What needs to be done to bring about a more fair, more just and more equal Scotland? I don't have any objections with what Alex Neil has tabled as an amendment on behalf of the Government for today's debate. Indeed, I remain proud that it was Labour in Fife that brought about the free bus pass for pensioners, first of anywhere in the United Kingdom. And it was then a Fifer, a Labour Chancellor, that rolled that policy out across the UK. It was also Labour in Fife that first brought about free nursery education for 3- and 4-year-olds, which is also a massive tool for tackling poverty and inequality, and which the Scottish Government now clearly recognises. So, whilst not disagreeing with the measures outlined by the Government, some brought about by the SNP and some brought about by Labour, I would have to say that on their own these measures are not going to create that fairer society that we all want. Indeed, despite these measures being in place, there are for many families, particularly for families on lower fixed incomes, things are getting worse. And I would say today that there is a very legitimate debate to be had about how we target resources to reach those in the greatest need. The Government's own poverty czar has flagged up issues around universalism. And I would hope, moving forward in Scotland, we can have a debate and be able to debate such matters in a more open, honest and transparent way. But for now, let me give you the example of the Cottage Family Centre in Kirkcaldy. 5 years ago at Christmas, the cottage provided Christmas parcels for 100 children. In 2014, it was 500, but this Christmas it had risen to 780 children. So nearly 8 times as many children as 5 years ago needing help at Christmas. And in contrast to 5 years ago, when the need was for extras for toys for the kids that families could not afford, this year the urgent need was for the basics, the food that families could not afford to put on their table at Christmas. So the suggestion by the Tories in their amendment today that levels of poverty are at a historic low are simply not the case. And whilst on the subject of the Tories, the proposals put forward by Prime Minister yesterday that families should be encouraged to save money in a bid to tackle poverty shows just how out of touch these people are with real life.
Nanette Millen.
That our remarks, and in my speech I will say that we've recognised the Scottish Government's own poverty and income publications, which state that poverty levels are at a historic low.
Alex Rowley.
Well, just look round Scotland, look round, rule out the increases in the food banks, look at the difficulties, look at the case of the family cottage centre in Kirkcaldy to see that poverty is not at a historic low, far from it. As the Trussell Trust said recently, the UK Government are trying to find ways of eating into national debt, while many people are just trying to find ways to eat. Last night I was at a food bank in Cowdenbeath run by the Dunfermline Trussell Trust. I met with the volunteers to thank them for the work that they do to help others and heard from them first-hand examples of who and how people are accessing emergency food parcels. I say to you today, it cannot be right, and it is not right, that in 2016 we have men, women and children relying on charity to feed themselves in Scotland. The first time in over half a century that we have absolute poverty in communities up and down this country. Absolute poverty means where people cannot access the very basic needs that are required to live. And I would suggest that food is a very basic need. We must use the benefit system to help and support people, not to drive them into desperation. You cannot starve people back to work. You must support people. In the Dunfermline area, which includes food banks in my constituency in Cowdenbeath, Crosshill, Inverkeithing and Rosyth, over 10,000 people have been supported with emergency food parcels over the last 3 years. The most common reason that people need to turn to emergency food parcels, according to the Trussell Trust, is benefit sanctions and welfare reform. We need a social security system based on respect for those it aims to help, treating people with dignity, with a focus on increasing people's opportunities and people's choices. I am always reminded that throughout the history of the Labour movement, the Jarrow Marchers, the Upper Clyde sit-ins, the miners' strikes in the 1980s, these people did not march for benefits, they marched for jobs. And today our ambition must be to use all the powers at our disposal in this Parliament to support people to get the skills and the opportunities to get the jobs. So let us all agree today that full employment must be our goal. For the key issue is jobs, good jobs, jobs for young people, jobs for long-term unemployed, jobs that are quality jobs, jobs that will last, jobs that we can build our future around. And that is why we need to set out a strategy for jobs, for the jobs that we need, the education and training that we need, the industrial investment that we need, for the hope in the future that we urgently need, to make for a better Scotland where having a decent paid job is the norm for all of Scotland and for all of Scotland's people. And that is the second point from last night and the visit to the food banks. It is that people in work are also accessing food banks. 60% of Scottish children in poverty have a parent in work. So today, let us agree the living wage across all of Scotland is something that we will work towards achieving in the next 5 years. Labour are committed to funding the living wage across the care sector. We are committed to using the procurement process to expand the living wage for all public sector contracts, and we will work with employers, with trade unions, to make this happen. Action to put an end to poverty pay once and all for all in Scotland, that is what is needed in this country. And we should take that action further. Scotland's job strategy must be driven by a partnership of government, of employers, with trade unions working alongside each other to grow a dynamic economy. We need an industrial strategy for Scotland. We need the conditions and support put in place for new business start-ups and to support and grow existing businesses, all of which must be the backbone of the Scottish economy. So our policy priority has to be to develop a dynamic approach to growing Scotland's economy, and most of all, we need a Scotland of high skills, good education, where no one is left behind. It is widely acknowledged we have a housing crisis in this country, and yet we are not building the houses for rent or to buy in the numbers that are needed. But to compound that, if we were building the houses that we need to be building, we would find ourselves in a position where there is a skills shortage in the construction sector. A shortage of brickies, of plasterers, of sparkies, of plumbers. We need a national house build strategy for Scotland. New council houses for rent sitting alongside a drive for new build to buy. Yep.
Mark MacDonald.
I'm grateful for the member for giving way. He says that we need more houses than those that are planned. Given that the Scottish Government has said it would deliver 30,000 affordable homes and has exceeded that target and has set a target of 50,000 for the next Parliament, what target does Mr Rowley believe needs to be set? What is the figure he's going to put on what needs to be delivered and what he would consider Labour would pledge to deliver? Because we need to have, if we're going to have that debate, it would be worth knowing where Labour's plans are in that.
Alex Rowley.
I wrote to the Housing Minister, who's here today. I wrote to her back in December, and I welcomed the announcement by the First Minister at that point that the SNP were committing to 50,000 houses. I thought it was 50,000 social rented housing. It was 50,000 houses, affordable houses. The House Minister has since written back to me in the last week and confirmed the 50,000, but also confirmed that 35,000 of those will be for social rent. And I welcome that. I don't believe it's enough, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. What I would say to the member is back in 2011, I have a nice photo of Alec Neil and John Swinney standing there with their commitment to 30,000 houses for social rent. And once you were back in power, you changed that to affordable houses. So whilst progress, and that is progress that's to be made, what I absolutely want to be committed to is to build consensus in this place, whether it's 35,000 houses for Council Housing Association or whether it's 45,000 for Council Housing Association, that we actually do it. We don't just make the promise now and after the election revert back to not doing it, because we do have a shortage in housing right across this country. We need a national house build strategy for Scotland. New council houses for rent sitting alongside a drive for new build to buy. This will not happen by itself. It needs political leadership and drive nationally alongside strategies and planning and a strategic approach and leadership at a regional level right across Scotland. Yep.
Would you accept the fact that this government was the first government to show the political leadership necessary to end right to buy, something the previous administration failed to do? Do you welcome that political leadership?
Alex Rowley.
Well, as the member knows, the problem with right to buy is that there was no replacement of the houses that was there, and that's why we've got the crisis in place, and that's why this party voted with your party to end the right to buy. I suggest to you that we need this national house build strategy developed and put in place now, as well as the skills strategy sitting alongside it to give young people here in this country the apprenticeships and the skills that will set them up for the rest of their life and tackle our housing crisis. And let's be clear in this chamber, we do have a housing crisis. We can and should address it now, as the gap between housing need and supply is bad for people, but it's also bad for our economy. It drives up prices, inflates rents in the private sector. There were 150,000 households in local authority housing waiting lists earlier this year. There are over 10,000 households in temporary accommodation. Every 18 minutes, a household in Scotland is assessed as homeless. That is 81 a day that is assessed as homeless. 940,000 households are in fuel poverty.
The member's in his last minute.
Homeless children in temporary accommodation missed on average 55 school days, equivalent to a quarter of the school year. So we can see that poor housing has a knock-on effect and must be addressed. I say to you today that I do not believe that any of this is rocket science. It just needs political leadership, political will, determination and drive. So let's move beyond the rhetoric of a fairer, more just Scotland and agree what needs to be done to achieve that. Thank you.